Okay, so I'm here with Jlish, and we're going to ask him a couple questions about the new NPC design on the Gamma Islands. So, for those of you that have been living under a rock, Gamma is hopefully right around the corner within the next week or two. We've been doing lots of work trying to get everything ready, and we're going to ask Jlish a couple questions about the new NPC design. So, first things first, uh, why did you guys feel like you wanted to redesign all of the NPCs on the Gamma Island instead of using pre-existing ones?
Okay, so this is a bit of a story, not long one, but the actual reason is that we would have to design quite a few NPCs for the Gamma and the things we wanted to do with it. So it did make sense to redesign everything because once you automate at least some of the NPC creation, it makes it really easy to create everything from scratch. So since we needed to make syndicate NPCs, we also needed new loot for them as well, since we don't have absolutely any NPCs that have any decent loot aside from ones you appear on money spawn.
Okay, so I guess follow-up question then. How much have you guys increased the loot by for the new bots? Because before, I mean, it was okay. I don't think anybody's really super excited about farming NPCs all day. But what kind of tweaks have you guys made? What kind of new things can we see on the new NPCs as far as what they drop?
Okay, so all of the NPCs are going to be dropping a lot more. This is primarily due to the way that we tweaked the farming on the Gamma. Since we're not going to have static spawns, we have condensed a lot of the loot you would earn over a period of time at a static spawn in just a handful of NPCs. So you can imagine it would go up by a factor of probably about 10 from what you've seen.
Okay,
Plus, there are some unique NPCs that drop some nice stuff as well.
okay, so you guys have completely removed static spawns, but instead of having static spawns, if I understand this correctly, then there will be only roaming spawns, but they'll drop a lot more stuff. So the time that you put into getting them should first the amount of stuff you get should be about the same, or is it going to be more?
It would depend on where you're going to be. Uh, it would scale from the basically danger and tier of the island. So the most common ones will have probably lower amount per time if you account for like traveling time and everything, but it would still be much more uh, per NPC. So if you get lucky and you get a few respawns, like you can walk away with half an hour worth of farming in like 10 minutes. On the high tiers, it's gonna be a lot more.
Okay,
Probably, I don't know, maybe it's really hard to tell how much you can get away. Again, you can get lucky on the most dangerous islands.
all right, fair enough. You did mention something that's interesting there. You mentioned about the different tiers of islands and the NPCs being different difficulties. Do you mind going a little bit more into detail about what kind of things we can see from different islands? Is there going to be more than 5 tiers? Because previously, if we look at Nimquil as an example, it only went up to fifth star, and then the easiest ones were the first star, the hardest ones were the fifth star. Is this something that you guys have factored onto the Gamma Islands, and do the different tiers of islands have different levels of NPCs?
Yes, and this was one of the reasons why this was designed in the first place. As you asked before, why we did it, we have new tiers. We have new loot for all of those tiers. Loot was also why we did it, and basically we take something like a tier 3 for the islands as the baseline, and then it scales up 5 tiers above. So you can imagine that all the tier 3 or thereabout would be tier 1 again. it then you will still see it as tier 3, basically, but it goes up to the tier 7 on the most dangerous ones.
Okay, so just to clarify, so that'd be tier 3, like a 3rd-star Nimquill mech would be the equivalent of the tier 1 on the Gamma Islands?
They're not directly equivalent, but they're based on those stats.
Okay, and then it would go up quite a bit higher than that, so we're looking at the highest level of difficulty of NPCs on Gamma being harder than anything we've seen before as far as just regular NPCs?
Oh, yes, that's correct.
Okay, what about observers? Have you guys done anything with observers? Because the alpha observers, I think, are in a good place. You know, that's a really good spot for new players to go. The beta observers, from me talking to other players, a lot of people find them a bit lackluster as far as maybe loot goes. So have you guys done anything to adjust observers on the Gamma Islands?
Yes, that was also why we did it. We have introduced whole new observers. They are based on the old ones, but there are some of the stats have been changed. Some of them have been boosted. Some have been nerfed. Some of the fittings are completely different. So you're going to see a lot more variety in how you fight them, like what they actually do when you fight them,
Oh,
and how like you're going to just going uh, you're going to see different loots as well. Different quantities. They're going to be new loot in observers.
new
You're
loot.
not just going to see like the same 3 broken T3 modules and 10,000 kernels.
Awesome. Okay, well that's good to hear. Any new mechs? Like before, it was just mechs and heavy mechs. Is there going to be any more variety there in the observers?
There are going to be Evor mech observers, and this is also a thing that uh, applies to all of the NPCs. They will not be like like the all of the NPCs will have sort of their own roles. So the Evors, both for observers and regular NPCs, will do Evor almost exclusively. Some of them will still have guns. Some of them will have some different things, but mostly they will focus on that. And combats will focus on combat, and you're pretty unlikely to see some random, I don't know, some random says perma jamming you.
Okay, that actually brings me into my next question because, I mean, I could probably make a compilation video half an hour long of me complaining about ECM on every single type of bot. Um, what have you guys done to kind of hone in on actual faction identity in terms of the research tree and which factions favor which type of EWAR or even modules?
Oh, that has been a focus as well. Each faction will heavily lean into their strengths and into Evor or Enlor that they prefer. So you can expect to see a lot of jamming from Info, as everyone expects. You can see a lot of jamming, mostly suppressing actually from the Logica, and expect a lot of trainers and influencers from Pellistil. There
Awesome.
will also be Syndicate NPCs, and they will have a bit of a mix of everything,
Okay.
but uh, and also a couple of other things from them.
Well, that's nice to hear because, as I said, I'm sick of getting ECM'd by literally every race all the time.
Yeah, I think it feels a bit unimmersive, and it's also annoying. So now at least you'll be able to uh, see what you actually need to do. Like, do you want to focus skills ECMing NPCs, or do you have a good evil protection and just focus on removing damage?
Okay, awesome. So more along the lines of if you're going against Nimquill, you might want to fit some ECCMs. If you're going against Pellistil, you might want to fit some reactor sealants, that kind of idea.
Yeah, pretty much.
Awesome. So again, another big complaint that I personally had with the old NPCs was the way that they were designed. It seemed like they were always fitted to fill in what should have been their weaknesses. Is that something that you guys are still doing, or is it something that you might have changed for the new NPC design?
That is also something that factors into what I said earlier about leaning into the strengths. The NPCs will not resist the weakest damage, so you'll definitely see benefit from both using the best ammo you can with the correct faction, and from using the ammo that has the best damage versus ammo that just has chemical.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because I've always just fit chemical ammo for everything now. You're saying that that's probably not going to be the best strategy going forward for the Gamma NPCs that have actually been built the way that they're supposed to be built.
Uh, it might still see some use. It might be useful for random PvP or something like that, but it will be less efficient than the specific ammo. And because all of the NPCs share those resistances, you are actually going to see consistent improvement and won't have to change back and forth between the ammos to get the best, like
Awesome.
you would with the old NPCs.
Well,
I
that's
think that might be the deciding factor in like choosing chemical versus other. You don't have to swap all the time to get the best.
well, that's great to hear because again, I think that's something that confuses a lot of people when they're going up against this particular bot and they bring that ammo and they're actually doing less damage than if they had brought something else. So that's good to know.
Yeah, that was something that was really inconsistent, and also something goes against what the game tries you to teach in
Yeah,
the at the start of the game.
exactly. So that's great news. So the next thing I want to talk about is the little mini strongholds and the bosses that you guys added in previous expansions have been some of the, I would say, most exciting and best content that has been added. Have you guys extrapolated or expanded on that at all when it comes to Gamma? Is there going to be any new bosses or anything of that like that you can tell me about?
Yes, the aside from normal NPCs, we have several types of. Some of them might be not quite bosses, but we're also going to have uh, 4 sets of bosses for each of the faction.
So
Well,
four sets of bosses, one for each faction,
uh, there's
or
going to be
multiple for
more.
each faction.
Yeah, there's going to be multiple for each faction. There's going to be uh, at least one big boss and a mini boss. So,
Awesome.
okay, yeah.
So that means there's going to be 8 new bosses out on the Gamma Islands.
Yeah, like straight up bosses, there's gonna be 8 more.
Okay, so we all know what the pit bosses are, but you just mentioned mini bosses. What kind of forces are you going to really need to even tackle those type of things? Are they going to be harder than the pit bosses? Easier? Where kind of difficulty are you looking for? About how many people, how many accounts do you think you'll need to be able to fight those effectively?
Well, those are kind of an extension of idea the original developer had with the bosses we can see now on Omega. They are pretty normal looking bots, but they have their own special names. They're much tougher to kill and drop much better loot. And also, we're bringing in the features that we introduced, like uh, the reinforcements
Okay.
and the new NPC design with everything I mentioned before, with the faction strengths, their flavors, all that good stuff. There's no bullshit ECM from every boss.
So basically, you guys have made some new bosses, and you've leaned into their faction identities. So, like, if I go against a Nimcol boss, can I expect to see it repairing a ton, kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be the major tanking for it.
Okay.
At least, I think in most cases. I don't know, maybe else might want to bring something to counter that.
So, in my experience, when I've obviously I don't know if anybody's watching my YouTube, they know that I love to do a lot of taps. Like don't think I've ever seen a Pellistal bot actually use its shields. Is this something that you guys have done to like kind of hone in on Pellistal faction identity? Like, am I going to see a boss actually shield up and be able to macro a shield or anything like that? Like that seems kind of insane.
Not just the boss, but also the regular pedestal NPCs will feature.
Awesome. So there's actually going to be the pedestal bots are actually going to use shields now.
Yes, including things like ictuses that would also drain to feed their shields.
That's pretty crazy to think about because that's something that we haven't really seen. It'll be interesting to see what exactly that's like and if maybe it's going to be a bit more challenging to fight some NPCs now.
It might be challenging, especially on the higher tiers, but I think if somebody is not familiar with those systems, they would be able to learn them on the easy tier 1 NPCs, or the tier 3s in our case.
Yeah. So
They will be somewhat dampened, so they wouldn't drain so much and wouldn't ECM as hard, so and wouldn't hit as hard, obviously.
okay.
So that
Just to
should be able
clarify,
to learn
yeah, just to
that
clarify,
way.
in case anybody's wondering, I believe the design is that T0 is supposed to kind of be like the wild, wild west where everything is the best there. And then T3, you're going to be able to have your strongest bases. So the farming in those areas, because you get to have such a strong base and be able to put such a foothold on those, that's where the easier NPCs are going to be, and therefore probably the least profitable farming. I think the goal is to try and get people into try to come out of their comfort zones and fight in areas that there's going to be a little bit less protection.
The easiest NPCs would actually be on T1, since they're easiest to reach from the old islands, from betas or alpha.
Okay.
And it would add a way to, like, for a new port that wants to establish on Gamma that didn't have a lot of presence, to get have some content for their newer members that they can actually tackle, to build them up with the kernel drops that they have, which are accelerated compared to beta,
Awesome.
and they're the juicier, slightly juicier NPCs on the T3 would also provide some incentive, I hope, to go there and actually build a base.
Okay.
And
So
farm those in relative safety. But as you stated, the T0s are going to have the best NPCs, the bosses, all that stuff. So you wouldn't actually able to own a boss and deny everyone doing it.
okay, well that's good to know because I think that's probably going to be some of the more sought after content. So it's going to be good to know that everybody can actually have access to that. So that kind of leads me into my next question. Because it's going to be full PvP areas with very little protection, why would I want to go actually kill NPCs on Gamma instead of just continuing to farm on Beta or on Alpha?
Well, that will. Yeah, I think that's a very important question to answer. And I think one of the big reasons will be the new uh, modules that we're adding. That those are going to be the T4 plus guns and mining modules with that will feature increased stats, and they will actually be direct upgrades, not just side grades that feature some additional things. Which I don't know if some people would prefer those, but for guns, I think that's the best that you can have.
Yeah. Well, and you guys did make the system with the idea that you could make multiple types of guns. So if that's something people want in the future or something that wants to be designed in the future, it's totally possible with the way that you guys have set everything up. So that's good to know. I've personally had this complaint a lot. I've said in the past that the previous T4 plus accumulation was too slow. Have you guys looked at that at all? What kind of maybe how many T4 guns could I expect to get when I go to a Gamma, if at all? Because before it was a pretty big grind to try and get some T4 plus modules.
Alright, so we definitely acknowledge that it is a huge grind, and we are going to address that both on Gamma and on existing strongholds. So on the Gamma, you can expect every NPC, or near so, at least every combat NPC, to have at least a chance to drop the shards. The primary sources would still be the bosses and observers and the new type of NPC that we're adding, that is a courier type NPCs.
Okay, awesome. I guess I don't really know if we answered this before, but again, how big of a group do you think you'll need to do the bosses with?
Oh, yeah. I think I have missed that.
Yeah,
But
because
yeah,
you know,
the mini bosses would need probably would need at least a couple of people. Ideally, 3 people with a couple of accounts each.
okay, so looking at
But
somewhere between 6 to 10 accounts, kind of thing.
possibly, but I don't know. I think there's a possibility that someone clever might figure out a way to do it this way.
Fair enough.
But we'll see. I think that yeah, like 5 to 8 people would probably be a safe bet to go for a mini boss. Well, 5 to 8 accounts.
Okay, and then are the pit bosses going to be similar to the pit bosses before, or are they looking to be more like the commandant on the Sentinel Island? What kind of thing are they looking like?
The pit bosses will probably look a bit more like the commandant. They will definitely have their own spawns. Well, probably like the pit bosses do as well.
Okay.
But the difficulty will be up a bit, and they're also going to be destroyers as the commandant.
Oh, awesome! So more more NPC destroyers. I think that's something that we all kind of want to see. I don't know if this will be a spoiler or not, but you did say that there was a syndicate one. Is there going to be a syndicate destroyer? Is that something you can say, or something that we just need to find out?
Uh, I think that's something you're gonna find out when you go to the Syndicate T0.
Okay, awesome.
Which actually, I think I probably should point out that there will be a bit of an issue with the display on the map. It is going to be the centermost T0
Yeah, so in case
on the map.
anybody's wondering, Lang, it's got a Nimquil symbol right now, but that is actually supposed to be the Syndicate one. So just anybody
Yeah.
watching right now, if that's confusing, because that confused me at the start, that is supposed to be the Syndicate one.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't edit that.
Okay, so the next question is there going to be things to do for solo players as far as farming NPCs or doing any sort of combat on the island? Like if you're one account, you want to go solo, is there any sort of activities you can do, or is this all basically all going to have to be group work?
I think solo players would be able to tackle the T1 and T2 spawns. Pretty much any of those with kind of classical outrange fits.
Okay, so if you're in a
Uh,
bit more of a kiting fit, you should be able to reasonably
yeah,
farm stuff.
yeah, you should be able to kill some stuff, but probably far slower than the group would, as you probably would expect.
Okay.
If you're multi-boxing, then your range is probably higher. Maybe you'll be able to hit T3, maybe even crush any spawn on T0, especially if you're experienced.
All right.
And also, I think a solo player might be able to handle some of the T0s, especially the smaller ones.
Okay.
There are a couple of spawns on each island that are especially like light on damage.
Okay, perfect. So that's good to know that there's going to be some things for maybe if you're just by yourself, you'll be able to do. You're not going to have to group up to do absolutely everything. Are we going to see any new mechanics on Gamma? This doesn't even have to be NPC related, but is there going to be anything? Obviously, there's going to be terraforming and bases eventually, like the old server. But have you guys introduced anything other than that you can talk about?
I think you could count any type of NPC as a mechanic. The courier NPC I've mentioned a little bit before. Those are going to be sort of like observers. but they're all going to be in this small size. So lights, like Wars and assaults.
Okay.
They will feature pretty high damage output. They will feature uh, high speed. They will be tough fight, and they might just run away from anything that's like can really kill them outright just without any effort. So, and additionally, they will be kind of hard to spot. So they will be kind of like running uh, jackpots that can actually kill you if you're not prepared for it.
Oh, so you say jackpot, so they're going to be giving pretty hefty
Yes,
loot then
yeah,
as
they
well.
will be giving some decent loot.
Okay, are they going
They
to be?
not don't going to be on the level of a mini boss or like really high, but it will be definitely uh, worth the time to hunt them down, especially if you're into like uh, rolling with the smaller bots like assaults, or if
Okay.
you can expertly multi-box like assault and like Devor, you would be able to get a lot of it for your effort, and especially because those guys might drop uh, really nice loots and really compressed, so you don't have to haul this worth of stuff.
Okay, perfect. So that sounds like that'll be it's almost like trying to find a golden snitch.
Kind of, I guess.
I think I heard somebody say that before. um, okay, so is there any other improvements or changes you'd like people to know before release? Anything at all that you want to just say about the new Gamma experience? Any things that we didn't talk about? I know that's
Oh, there's a lot of changes in the way NPCs will be. I honestly don't know uh, what people will expect. So I think the best thing I can really say is come into that with a bit of an open mind, because that will be different from everything you've seen before in the game.
Yeah, so I just want to say, I've been working with Jlish on this a little bit now, and the amount of effort that these guys have put in has been incredible. And for those of you that know me, I've been a little bit cynical in the game, and I've grinded NPCs um, about as much as anybody else has, if not more. And the new NPCs have been a very, very exciting experience for me, and I think for Jlish as well, as we've been playing with them.
Yeah, definitely. There are some really funny moments that happen just because of how those NPCs work
Yeah,
and how much they can spread out.
yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's all I've got for you, Jalish. If there's anything else you want to say, then go ahead. Otherwise, I think that'll be enough of a bit of a teaser for the people that are out there listening.
Yeah. I just hope to see you out there on whichever side you happen to be.
Yeah, yeah. Leave me alone while I'm trying to hunt down those couriers. All right. Thanks a lot, Jalish.
Yeah, no problem.